Hello everyone and welcome to a new video in our IFS Cloud video series. My name is Marcel Aushan, I'm an IFS consultant, and today I want to talk about a topic that is very dear to my heart, and that is the IFS Lobbies. I want to give you an overview on this lobby functionality with a specific focus on industry lobbies. I will talk in this video what's an industry lobby and what IFS was thinking about when putting in place these IFS lobbies to make the life of IFS customers much easier. But before going into the system, I would want to explain what a lobby is. So basically, we could think of a lobby like an operational dashboard, if you will. So on the screen, you see the lobby for the operational buyer, for example. So basically, it's a page which could be set up as a user's homepage. In this case, for the operational buyer, it would be a perfect match that each buyer in your organization will set up this page as a homepage. And then every time they come to work in the morning, they can see what actions they have to do. You will see the lobbies are very much operational oriented. So it kind of guides the users on what they need to do next, what they need to check, what exceptions they need to manage. Because when you think about an ERP system, it might be overwhelming the amount of pages, transactions that a user must know in order to perform their daily tasks. Well, IFS Lobbies comes as a tool to help navigate that complexity. So instead of the user needing to go through a dozen of pages in order to get the work done, they can start from their lobby page, designated lobby page, and from that page they can navigate around to manage their daily work. Now, when we talk about lobbies, and especially now that I will give you a more technical overview on lobbies, we need to understand how these lobbies are built. So the foundation for each lobby page would be one or more data sources. Basically, data sources are views in the Oracle database that we can pull data from and filter based on our own criteria. Once we have defined a data source, we can create the definition for the element of the lobby. So the element could be, as you see here, could be a bar chart, could be a counter, could be a line chart. So there would be many options in order to create an element based on the underlying data source that we created. Then once we have the elements created, we can assemble them, put them together inside the lobby page. And I will show you how we can design and modify an existing lobby page in the application. There will be a follow-up video after this one to go more in depth into the actual development of a few lobby elements, a few lobby data sources, and then adding them to existing lobby pages. So stay tuned for that video where we will give you some hands-on experience on how to build such data sources and such elements. But it's important to know what's the underlying foundation when you want to create a lobby page. Then if we take one step further in understanding how the different pieces come together, so I mentioned the data source. We will have a screen where we can design the data source, which will basically be a database view. And as you probably know, a view in IFS, it's basically a database object on top of some base tables. So it's exposing data from the base tables of IFS Cloud. So basically we will create a data source by querying some views, and we will put our own filtering criteria, our own conditions on what data we want to get out of that view or table. Then once we have the data source created, that you can see here in pink, we could create one or more lobby elements. You see here on the screen E4, E5, E7. These are all different elements that are based all on the same data source. Now you can have one element for one data source, or you can have multiple elements that are feeding from the same that are consuming from the same data source. That's perfectly fine. And furthermore, once you start assembling your lobby pages, as you can see at the top of the screen, you can use the same element, for example, E5 in our case, in more than one lobby page. Yeah, so it's like assembling a Lego, if you will. You can just take different elements and put them on the different lobby pages. Of course, we will discuss that each lobby page can have its own page parameters, yeah, by which the data gets filtered to according to what the user wants to see. And obviously, if we are using one element in multiple lobby pages, yeah, we need to also make sure that the underlying data source is supporting the same parameters that the user passes in the lobby page. Yeah, so if the user wants to filter by, I don't know, let's take a procurement lobby, for example, where buyer is his ID, then if we use this element E5 in different pages, yeah, we need to make sure that in both pages we can filter by the user ID as a buyer, and maybe on the other page as just a user. And then our data source supports filtering by user ID or buyer. Yeah? That's very important to keep in mind. Then, if we move on, one last explanation, where do we put the IFS lobbies in terms of the reporting framework, if you will, of IFS? Yeah, so, as we said, IFS lobby is an operational dashboard. Yeah, so it's part of the reporting stack of IFS. Yeah, and it basically shows the user what they need to do. Yeah, so it's heavily used for operational tasks, yeah, day-to-day task. We can also use it a bit as for analyzing purposes, but what IFS Lobby is not, you need to understand this, IFS Lobby is not BI. Yeah? It's not a BI system. So in IFS Lobby, you will see as data changes in real time. So there's no historization, there are no trends in the IFS lobbies. So basically what I'm trying to say is that a lobby is not a BI tool. Yeah. So for sure, your company probably has or should implement a strong business intelligence solution, but just be mindful that the IFS lobby is not really a BI solution per se. Yeah. Good. Now, having explained all this, let's go ahead and jump into the system. And as I said, I want to put a special emphasis on the industry lobbies. Yeah? But maybe before talking about the industry lobbies, just to show you, when we go to the lobbies page in IFS Cloud, we have hundreds and hundreds of lobbies for different parts of the IFS Cloud applications, which have been built by R&D. Yeah, so as I said, there would be probably a lobby page for each of your users in IFS Cloud, or for each of your business function, let's call it like that. Yeah. So we talk about projects, we talk about procurement, requisitioners. Yeah. So everything that you need, or every business function that you need, would probably have a lobby page. Yeah. Now, these lobby pages can be found if you navigate to the lobbies, if you have the access to the solution manager. If you're an administrator, you could see all the different lobbies, but also some of these are embedded in the navigator of IFS Cloud, and some of them are grouped in the so-called industry lobbies. And this is what I would want to focus on. So basically, if I just try to search industries, Here we would be able to see all the starting lobby page, let's say, for the different industries. Yeah? But maybe before going into the details from the lobby page, we can even zoom in, zoom out, depending on the size of your screen. Now I'm recording this session from a laptop, so maybe 80% would be good enough. When I'm using a bigger screen, I always set it to 100%. But for the quality of this video, I will leave it to 80 for now. Good. And then when we discuss about lobbies and industries that IFS Cloud supports or is a best fit for, yeah, we have the A&D, aerospace and defense, engineering, construction, manufacturing, services, utilities, and telecommunication. Yeah? So these are all the 6 verticals for which IFS is considered to be maybe best in class software solution. Yeah, and then if we dive into the services industry, yeah, then we can see also here we have some different service solution lobbies. Yeah, we can be a service provider, then we will use the service providers lobby, or some company that just does equipment hire or running some facilities, professional services. But for our purpose, let's say we are a project-based service provider, so we will click on this lobby element. Yeah, whatever I click on inside the lobby is a lobby element, and this lobby element has a navigation enabled to another lobby. Yeah, so as you've seen, we went from the industries lobbies to the services solutions lobby, and then I can go into the project-based service providers lobby. And this could easily, if I'm a company that's in the project-based services, providing project-based services, then this would be the ideal lobby that I would use throughout my organization. Yeah? And here you can see, usually, as I said, it's an operational dashboard. So basically it also makes sense from a logical perspective. We start with the CRM, customer relationship management, then going through contract management, project management, engineering, procurement. Yeah, so bringing all the different materials that you need in order to provide the services, then equipment management, some repairs after we provided the services, and then some ongoing service with service contracts and so on. And we also have some supporting processes, and probably the financials one is the most important of all. But maybe let's have a closer look to the procurement lobby. So I will just click on the procurement, and you will see that I will navigate to another lobby. Yeah, and here I'm in the procurement. Let me maybe make it a bit bigger. So we are in procurement central. We have some key performance indicators set up at the top. These key performance indicators, these KPIs, you can set up some workflows to calculate this automatically. At the moment, they are provided by IFS as a manual setup. Yeah? But if you want to set up some complex formulas behind calculation of these KPIs, there is a possibility to create a workflow, a business process automation workflow, and you can schedule that workflow to provide updated KPIs. Also, when we are in the business area, we can see also the things here make logical sense. So it's also like a sort of a workflow, if you will. So we start with the supplier relationship management, where you define your supplier, you qualify it. We have the approved supplier list, and then we have the requisitioner lobby, where people can ask for different things. Then we have the operational procurement for your buyers. Then we have receipt management. Yeah, when the goods arrive at your warehouse, you do the receipt. Yeah, we have quality control, so we can do inspection on the received goods. And then finally, we have 2 lobbies for supplier performance management and invoice spent analysis, yeah, for each supplier, which is quite nice. So let's say we are a buyer. Yeah, we go to operational procurement. Yeah, and here we will be able to see a lot of details, very useful details that we can use to run the daily business. Yeah, so we could see a summary of the requisitions, how many are in status planned, how many are released, authorized. Yeah, all of these lobby elements are have a navigation behind. So if I want to see what are my planned requisitions, I will just click on it and it will navigate to the purchase requisition lines, as you see, but it already has filter applied. Yeah. So the filter that was applied in the lobby page is transferred in the when we navigate, and we can see one purchase requisition line, and from here we could go to the details, release, convert to purchase order, and so on. Yeah. So it's very nice that we have navigation behind this lobby, these lobby elements. Then we can have different types of elements. Yeah? We can have some counters like we have here. We can have some navigation links, yeah, to other different lobbies. Yeah? So if we want a quick jump to receipt management without going back to procurement central and then clicking on the receipt management, we can jump directly from here, yeah, to receipt management. And then we make this smaller, and then we could see exactly what we need to receive. Yeah? We will see that today we have one arrival that is planned, so we can come to the screen where we can register the arrivals quickly. Yeah? So it's overall a very nice way of navigating the complexity of the system. Let me go one step back. Then we can have our bar charts here, so we can see, yeah, we have one requisition in status planned, one in status released. Same with the purchase orders, one planned, one released. Then we can have different pie charts, open value here by the demand type. Obviously, all our demand is coming from inventory orders, so we just have 2000 here for the two purchase orders. Yeah, each one is for 1000. And then we can have open value by purchase group. Yeah? But you got the point, we could create our own elements where we slice and dice the data based on the different criteria that we can decide. Yeah? Then we can also have a list where we can include different columns. Yeah? We can see by each buyer, yeah, how many requisitions, how many purchase orders, and what's the total value of those. Yeah? We can also see it by supplier. So this is quite handy for doing some, let's say, analytical judgments. Yeah? We can say, okay, for this supplier, we have a total open value of 2000 for the two purchase orders. But again, this is not a BI system. Yeah? This is a way of managing the day-to-day work without going through the purchase order screen, purchase order purchase requisitions, and so on. Yeah? We manage everything from one single page, which is quite nice, to be honest. Okay, then one other thing, if we go back into our project-based service providers, yeah, I want to show you another really nice dashboard, really nice lobby. And if we go into financials, here we have the month-end processing, which for the finance teams that I worked with was quite a game changer, because you probably know closing the period in finance is sometimes a lot of headache, a lot of transactions that you need to run. And here you are given a one-stop shop for knowing what's the status with your period closing. So you can see depreciation has run, currency is done, revenue recognition you still need to do, also the cost allocation procedure you need to do. You have some errors that you need to fix in your maintenance transaction, in your manufacturing transactions. You have some customer invoices with errors. So basically you will need to work through all of this in order to be able to close the period. But again, everything is navigation enabled, so you just click on it and it will take you to the work task posting analysis in this case, and you will see the ones which will have an error, and then you can take a look at the error and try to solve it and reprocess those transactions. Which is quite nice. So here you can see the errors that a finance person could resolve. Okay, good. Now let's go back to our project-based service provider lobby, go to our procurement and maybe to our operational procurement. As I said, this page updates in real time. So for example, now let me just refresh this. Sometimes I need to refresh a few times so that these numbers appear. Some kind of a bug probably. But let's just go ahead and create a new requisition, purchase requisition, just to see that these numbers will update automatically. Yeah? So if I switch to a new screen, to the purchase requisition, just really quickly to create one, and to create one line quickly for our Cube Reaction Pro bicycle for a quantity of 5. I'll just save it. And if we go back to our page, I refresh, and now we see that we have 2 planned requisitions, and now we can see also that the bar for the planned requisitions is higher. Let's say we want to release this requisition, we release it. Immediately, if we refresh this page, we will see that now we have 2 requisitions that are released, one that is planned. No? Very nicely we can see that. If we want to quickly convert it to a purchase order, we can do that, and then we will see that the purchase order count increases and the requisition is no longer monitored because it reached its end of life. So we will just create a new purchase order from this requisition. And we can see the requisition is closed, purchase order is planned. And if we come back to our procurement lobby, we will see one requisition released, one planned, but now we have 2 purchase orders that are in status planned. No? If we release the purchase order, then obviously we will have just 1 in planned and 2 in released. Yeah? So this is a way of tracking real-time changes of data throughout the system, which is quite nice to have. Okay, then let's maybe go into more technical details of this overview that we will do, and we will talk a bit about how to put together such a lobby page, how to look at the lobby element, just to be able to read what was defined, and also have a look at the data source. And then in the next video, I will walk you through a hands-on example where we create a new data source, we create a new lobby element, and we add it to an existing page. Okay, so if you want to edit an existing lobby, you have the small wrench symbol at the top. Just one thing to consider, all the lobbies provided by IFS R&D are protected. We can still edit them. I would advise you against editing a standard lobby. If you want to use a standard lobby but maybe remove some elements or add some elements of your own, I would suggest to copy the lobby page. You can duplicate the lobby page, give it your own name, and then modify that copied version of the lobby. The reason is simple. The thing is that IFS R&D continues to improve existing lobbies and continues to add new lobbies with each new release update. So basically, if you are changing a standard lobby page built by IFS R&D, and then in the next release update that you will do, if you jump from, let's say, 24R2 to 25R1, and there are some changes in the standard lobby page, your changes that you did, your, let's say, configurations to the standard lobby page will be overridden by the delivery, by the service update or release update. Yes, and you will lose the work that you did. Therefore, it's important to duplicate the page if you want to do changes to it, rename it, and then do your changes, and you're fine to go. But for demo purposes, we will say edit anyway. We will not really do any edits, but we just want to see how to arrange maybe different things on the screen. So when I say edit anyways, you see we are brought to, let's say, the page designer of a lobby. Okay. Good, and here we can see exactly how the information is displayed. Yeah, so each of these small boxes on the left is a lobby element, and we can see they are grouped in different sections. So we have a first section which holds these 4 lobby elements. Then we have a title section which at this point is empty. We could add a title here and then it would be displayed on the screen. And then we have the second grouping which contains the bar charts, pie charts, and the list. Obviously we could drag and drop to switch how they are displayed, and if we save, you will see that the list is now on the top. Of course, it doesn't make for a good read, so probably we will revert that change. If I go again to edit, let me bring it back down. Supplier overview was below the buyer overview. Yeah, and now supplier overview is below, so we can save it. If we go again to edit mode, basically here on the left we have all the available lobby elements that are created. Yeah? When we create a new lobby element, depending on the element type, so we could have a bar chart, a counter, an image, line chart, a linked list, and so on. When we create a new lobby element, it would also show up here under the appropriate grouping based on what element type we have created. Yeah? That's what I said, that first we will create a data source, then we create the element that will feed itself from that data source, and then we put that element to a lobby page, a brand new lobby page or an existing one. But pay attention to duplicate it first. Okay, good. Then we can cancel edit from here. One more thing that I want to mention when we discuss about lobby pages is that each lobby page can have one or more page parameters. Yeah? And at the top we can see, if we click on it, we open the page parameters, and this is where the users could decide, just show me all the different data from this lobby for this buyer. For example, if we search for buyer asterisk, which is the default IFS applications, and just some dummy data, and we click OK, we will see that now it filtered only for the buyer overview IFS application, and you see we only have now just one PO in order planned that is created for this buyer. Obviously, when we implement some page parameters, whatever we put in here is acting like is executed as a filter on the data source. So whatever we put here as page parameters, we also need to manage in all the different data sources, so that when the lobby page is refreshed, so the query is done against the database, each of these lobby elements would filter the data based on these parameters. If we just set up some page parameters, but these are not implemented in the data source, then nothing will happen, basically. Okay, then one more thing that I want to show you when we talk about a lobby page. We can add different elements from here, but one thing, if we go here to the page properties, here we can see we could set up this lobby page to be available as a B2B, in the B2B portal. We can also set it up for auto refresh, and then we are asked for how many seconds it should each interval that it should refresh. In this case, I will say 30 seconds, so the users don't have to, don't have to refresh the page. By default, each lobby page is automatically refreshed. A refresh means that all the queries behind these lobby elements are executed against the data source, against the database, and then the data is shown here. This refresh happens every time you come to a lobby from a different page, or you just refresh from manually. No? But you can also set up from this setup symbol, you can also set up an auto refresh with an appropriate interval. No? Then we see some details about who built this dashboard, and then we can see the different parameters. Yeah, from here we can create more parameters, and then the user will see at the top more parameters if we create more. But of course, remember, if we add new parameters, we must double check that the same parameters are implemented in the data sources. Otherwise, it will be in vain adding new parameters. We can also set up some default values, which is quite nice. So for each time a user comes to this operational procurement, it will pre-filter the data based on his default company and based on his or her default site, which is nice. Usually buyers will be assigned to a default company, a default site, and usually this buyer function, let's say, is company specific. Yeah? So each company will have its own buyer. So it's a good way to put already these values inside. You see here, we see the values populated, but when we went to the edit screen, there we can see that there's a default value set up as a default company and the user default site. And then depending on the user that comes to this page, it will show one or the other company, which is quite nice. Furthermore, for the rest of the parameters, we don't have any default values set. So this means the users must, if they want to further filter down the data, they must put in some manual values here and then say OK, and it will refresh the lobby page, which is quite nice. Now, when we want to export, import, we have some nice functionality. If we want to, let's say we modified an existing lobby page, we created a duplicate page, and then we added some new elements, removed some elements. If we want to move this page from, let's say, config environment or UAT environment into prod after we've done the testing, all we need to do is to export the page. So far, using application configuration packages for transporting these lobby configurations from one environment to the other is not supported by IFS Cloud. So we will need to do the export page manually and then import page in the target environment. Now, importing the page we can do from the lobbies. So we have an import button, import page button. And when we are in one of the lobbies, we have the export button. So these are the two buttons that we can use to export and import. Of course, all of this functionality to edit a lobby should not be available to a regular user. A regular user, when they come to the screen, they should only have the option to filter based on the page parameters that an administrator defined, but not have access to edit the lobby. Only a system administrator, an IT person, should have access to do all this. Okay, then let's go one step further. So we discussed about how to put different things on the page. Then, if we want to see how a specific element was defined, we have a button to, let's say, this requisition line status. If we go to this small setting button, we can see how it was defined with a width of 2, height of 2. Now we can also unify it with the next element if we want to, just to make things nicer. And we can also, if we click on this details button, we can navigate to the element to see more details. So basically, in the element designer, we can see again the width and the height. Obviously, everything is grayed out unless we say edit anyways, and then we can modify the width and the height from here. But the most important thing in the, let me just cancel edit, the most important thing I would say in the element designer would be the link with the data source. We will have a look at the data source. Basically, once we have the data source defined, we can link it with our lobby element, and then we can define based on the different lobby type, element type. In this case, we are talking about a bar chart. We can define the x-axis, y-axis, if you want to aggregate information. Obviously, different element types will have different way of showing the data. Yeah? But we will see that when we will do the actual development. Yeah? We can also do some formatting. We can just get the top, I don't know, top 5 records based on our categorization. We can give a title for the X or Y axis. And very important, we can enable navigation. Yeah? So you remember when I click on the, let me just put here a parameter really quickly, just for test purposes, DE10 inside DE, how was it? Let me go back, I can't remember. So it's company D01 and site D011, okay. Then we go back to the requisition line status. Yeah, and here, if we are doing some development, we could preview the development that we are doing by adding some parameters, exactly as we are doing in the lobby page, just to test how the data is fetched, and if it's looking good to our liking, then we could preview how it looks, and we could also test if the navigation works. Yeah, so here we can put a URL address for the navigation, and obviously it will go to the purchase requisition line list. And very important is this use data source condition. So basically the conditions that we applied in the lobby page were transferred to the data source, and then when we navigate to this purchase requisition lines list, we will already pre-filter that list with what we have, with the conditions that we have set, with the parameters that we have set in the lobby page. So if you click on the planned, from here we could see that it's navigating us to the purchase requisition lines, so that this navigation here is working well. Sometimes when we build a lobby element, it takes a few tries until we get the navigation defined correctly, and then we can quickly do the preview and test it from here to see if it works well or not. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, we can also change the colors. If I edit anyway, yeah, we can see we can use different color codes if we need to draw attention or to highlight something as being critical that they need to quickly look at and resolve, for example. Okay, I will cancel edit. And then the next important step is to have a look at the data source. So if we click on the data source here on the details, we can see the data source designer for this data source. Yeah? Each data source must have a unique name, and then it will have a view where it's getting the data from. In this case, it's the database view, purchase requisition line all, yeah? And then it has some where condition. Let me maybe just edit anyway and just make it a bit prettier to read so that we can see clearly what this is doing. Yeah, so basically it's an SQL statement. So you need to be familiar with reading SQL statements and be able to write some SQL statements. Yeah? So basically it's getting the information from the purchase requisition line all, but it's not getting all the data that's in here because it's filtering further for the status not be PO created. Yeah, we don't care to monitor a purchase requisition when the PO was created. We don't really care about that. Then it's also looking at the company. So the company should be the one that we specified in page parameters, and that's why we see it surrounded by dollar signs. So it's referring to a page parameter, and also the contract is referring to the site page parameter, and then is managing the requisitioner code. If it's null, it can be either null or can be the one that is set up in the page parameter if it's not null. And similar to the requisition number, if we just want to filter by some requisition number, we could do that. And also the buyer is doing the same. So this is a way to manage if the user will filter by buyer, then buyer code must be what the user inputted in the page parameter, or if the user leaves this field null, then this is also handled. So if the buyer is null from the page parameter, or if it has a value, then give me that data. Also has an order by clause and a group by. Then when we look at the columns, here we can add more columns as we see fit. We need to, when we're doing the data source design, we need to think what type of elements we want to build on top of this data source, and then we need to build our data source accordingly, with the appropriate information that we want to later on display in our element. In this case, it's just having here, let me just, I cannot expand this, it seems. So it has just a long case statement. But probably is this one because it's ordering by, so it's looking if it's needing some authorization, then it will show AV authorize, otherwise it will show the status. So this is important to know, but this is more functional information. There is no status for needing authorization. You can just not release the requisition unless it's authorized. So that's why first it's checking if the authorization is required. If it is required, then it will put the status AV auth. Otherwise, it will just show the status planned, released, and so on. Also from here, when we're creating our data source, we can test it. We can input some parameters, DE01, DE011, and then we can preview just to see how much data is fetching, so planned and released, with one record each. Okay, so as I said, in the next video we will be playing around with creating our own data source, creating our own lobby elements, and then putting them on a page. I will just cancel edit from here, so just leave everything untouched. Okay, and this is how we can read and understand what's behind the data source. It's a very common theme that I find always when there are some more complex, let's say, lobby pages in the system, and sometimes customers are asking, well, what's the system considering when showing this purchase order status? In this case, it's quite self-explanatory, but there are some other lobby pages where, as a consultant, maybe you don't always know exactly what the system is considering. So therefore, it's useful, even if you are a functional consultant, to know a bit about the lobby development and how to read the data source that's behind a lobby element. It can add value to your implementation efforts. Okay, then before finishing this video, I also want to show you some things to manage when it comes to permissions. So which user should have permission to which lobby page. When we go to the permission set page, I will have a separate video on how you can create permission sets and administer users. But for now, if we go to this permission set, let's see this one, see all. So here I granted all the projections, all the lobbies, everything. We can see here that we have a lobby page section for each permission set. And therefore we can see For example, if we have a buyer permission set, yeah, we could add some buyer related lobby pages, yeah, to the permission set of the buyer, and then assign the permission set to the user or the user group. Yeah, so this is important. You can grant lobby pages, you can grant lobby elements, and also lobby data sources. Now, one important thing to know, especially if you will be developing lobbies, is that there is a system property, system parameter, sorry. There is a system parameter where you can define whenever you create a new lobby data source, a new lobby element, that it should be automatically granted to some permission set that you as a developer have. So if you search for lobby in the system parameters, yeah, we can see this here, that permission set to be granted lobby presentation objects by default. Here I put the C_all, and this is a permission set that I'm using in this environment. So whenever I create a new data source, I don't have to grant myself access to that data source. One thing to mention is whenever you create a new data source, if you don't have access to it, you cannot preview it, so you cannot execute it to see what data it fetches, and sometimes it's a bit frustrating. Therefore, IFS implemented this system parameter for category lobby, that whenever you are creating some new lobby data source, it's granted access to this lobby data source is granted automatically to this permission set, which is quite nice. Okay, then just to finish off, I also mentioned that some of the lobby pages are also embedded in the navigator. So for example, if I go to the procurement operational buyer, I would be able to see the operational buyer lobby, yeah, which appears as a standard page in the navigator, but it's in fact a lobby page. Yeah? And also from here, I can navigate to the different things. Yeah? Also, this one has some page parameters and so on. Also, supplier performance would be, again, a lobby page with some gauge and some tables, yeah? Looking nice. Good. So this was about the lobby overview. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found out some useful information. Stay tuned for the next video where, as I said, I will walk you through some hands-on experience in developing a lobby data source, lobby elements, and adding them to a lobby page. Until next time, stay safe. Bye.